Hello and welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining us for this bonus session. I think we covered most of the points that I wanted to cover during this module, but now we have the upcoming 3-day Lamrim meditation retreat. And so we've shot the raw videos for those. And Shanti has very kindly helped to edit. So we're still going through that process. I'm not going to edit out all of the cow noises in the background of the meditation sessions, but it'll give that authentic Indian feeling. So yeah. In any case, what I thought to do for this session is to now put it all together and actually go through how to do a Lamrim meditation session. So later on, there's going to be a module, I think establishing a daily practice or something like this, where you're going to go through a little bit more extensive daily practice. So this will be more abbreviated than that, but it will contain all of the very essential points of the practice. And then, as you'll see, the basis for doing this, okay, there will be the foundation of all good qualities. So in the subject area summary sheets, then there's the points we're going to cover, then the required integration practices, and then the kind of recommended or optional integration practices. So within that, there's this what we call a scanning meditation of the Lamrim, right? And the foundation of all good qualities, or these other Lamrim prayers that we have, they can form the basis of a scanning meditation. So then we go through, scanning through the various topics of the Lamrim. And then in one particular session, we're going to do a more deep dive into one of the points. So anyway, I'll explain what that is when we do. So anyway, before we really get into it, then let's just, if you haven't already, adjust our motivations, thinking that the purpose of my life is to benefit all sentient beings. And in order to benefit sentient beings in the best way, I myself must first achieve the state of enlightenment. And therefore, I need to learn about all the stages along the path to enlightenment, both learn them intellectually, as well as learn how to integrate them into my mind through meditation. And therefore, in order that I may be able to do that, I'm going to participate in today's session. And then we'll do the usual way, taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. So again, remembering our motivation that we're doing this for all sentient beings, then we can also think that all sentient beings are in the space around us. And then we can visualize the Buddha, our guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of us. Then, our guru actually is the embodiment of all 3 jewels of refuge. So we can think of, the Buddha's, or our guru's speech as being like the Dharma, his body being like the Sangha, right? And then his omniscient mind as being like the Buddha. So then recalling those qualities and then wishing to attain those qualities ourselves, that's why we take refuge in the 3 jewels. So then we can recite, I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay. So, great. Now what I thought to do I do want to leave more time for your questions at the end. So let's just jump into this practice that I have kind of compiled. And I'll send this to all of you. Or I'll send it to Mary Ellen, who will send it to all of you. Okay. All right. So this is just something I kind of compiled that, incorporates all the main elements of a Lamrim session. So anyway, let's go through this. So first, even though we're going to do, the analytic meditation, then at the beginning of any session, actually some of you, I asked for the kind of review questions for the module, and some of you had as your question to say what the preliminary practices are. So that was covered in the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. So those of you who have read that or know from another context, then usually they talk about first cleaning the place where you're going to meditate, and then also setting up images of the three jewels, and then to set up offerings to the best of your ability. Then anyway, they say then to get into a good meditation position, right? And then they talk about the seven limb posture, which we've gone over before, but basically the most important thing is to, have a straight back. And then sometimes the lineage lamas, they'll talk that actually, if we talk about the seven limb posture, then the eighth step in that, right, is to then settle the mind on the breath. So this is to bring a bit of stability in the mind prior to doing a kind of analytic meditation, because as you know, if we try to use analysis, but our mind is wandering all over the place and thinking about different things, then our meditation won't be that focused and it won't be that effective. The great Indian master Shandiyeva said, whatever recitations that we do, even for, I don't know, some very long amount of time, 1,000 eons, will have no benefit if done with a distracted mind, right? So therefore, at the beginning of the session, it's good to just, settle down. And we do that by focusing on the breath. And as many of you know, then this is particularly good for curbing and quelling the discursive thoughts. And part of the reason for that is, when we meditate on the breath, right, normally our mind's tendency is to go thinking about plans for the future or remembering things that happened in the past. But when we meditate on the breath, we're actually meditating on the physical sensations in the body as we breathe in and out. And these physical sensations, they're only existing in the present moment. So we then give our mind a task to then, focus on this moment, focus in the present, and then all the thoughts of past and future will, naturally dissipate. Okay? So we do this few minutes of settling the mind with mindfulness of the breath meditation. Okay? So I think most of you, know how to do that. Focusing on the sensations in the body. When different thoughts come up, then try not to follow after them. Don't pay attention to them. Allow them to dissolve back into the nature of the mind. And then you remember the analogies they talk about, like drawing on the surface of a pond, or the waves of the ocean. They just dissolve back into the ocean, or clouds in the sky. Then eventually dissolving back into the nature of the sky. So just maintain that kind of mindfulness of the breath. And generally, those of you who might be busy, everyone is, right? Then they say at the very least, try to get to a point where you can count your breaths and get to 21 breaths without losing the count, without losing the object. If you're able to do that, then that's the kind of minimum bar for some stillness of the mind. Okay. So then next thing we do, right, after we first, just from getting into the kind of settled mind through the mindfulness of the breath meditation, then our mind is actually in a very neutral place. But we don't want our mind to be neutral. We want our mind to be extremely virtuous. So then after doing the mindfulness of the breath meditation, then we recall our bodhicitta motivation. So bodhicitta, right, the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. And then, just like we do at the beginning of every session, right, we recall that that's why we're doing this practice. That's why we're listening to this lecture. That's why we're going to, study and do everything we're supposed to do. And then to kind of set an auspicious dependent arising, right? We visualize all the sentient beings surrounding you, right? And we think that we are leading all the sentient beings in the practice. This becomes very auspicious dependent arising for in the future us to, have a very large retinue of disciples when we do eventually become Buddhas, right? So we visualize all sentient beings surrounding you, and then we visualize the Buddha, or if you do have a guru, you can think of, it's your guru in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha in the space in front of you. So this will be about 2 meters or yards for you Americans, right? 2 meters in front of you at the level of your forehead or eyebrows, right? And then as you recite these verses, then think that, you're like the chant leader and all sentient beings are reciting along with you, okay? And then of course, before, just reciting the words, then, you should do like we did at the beginning of this session, right? To think, why are we actually going for refuge? Okay, well, going for refuge is, recommitting ourselves to this practice that the Buddha taught, namely the Dharma. And in order to develop those qualities within ourselves, then we're going to, take refuge. And then in particular, in order that we can become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings, right? These second 2 lines is showing this mind of bodhicitta, right? Dedicating our practice so that we can become Buddha. Then we recite this 3 times. And then we do the 7-limb prayer. So at first I was, kind of on the fence whether I should include it or not. But I did include it here. And, basically you'll see this in almost all of the various sadhanas that you'll come across in your career. And the point is, this 7-limb prayer, then it contains all of the various means by which we can purify previously accumulated negative karma. We can accumulate a new stock of virtuous karma. And then the previously accumulated virtue, we also, through the practice of rejoicing, then we increase its strength and potency. And then we dedicate for enlightenment, which then means that, then all of this virtue that we are accumulating will ripen in the best possible way. So, this will come up in that module later about the cultivating a daily meditation practice. But just for now, it's good to do to the best of our ability, right? And then these 7 limbs, right? So we have the limb of prostration, and it says that, each of these limbs is an antidote to a particular fault or delusion. So here with the prostration, then it's the specific antidote to pride, right? And so when we think of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, seeing that they have, qualities that are, greater than what we have now, and qualities that we want to aspire, that should put us in some kind of mind of humility, right? And therefore, we prostrate, we pay homage. The presenting the clouds of every type of offering. Then this is a specific antidote to miserliness. And then the significance here, both actually arranged. That means, any of the offerings you've set up in your own space or at any of the Dharma centers, in the world. So those would be the actually arranged offerings. And then mentally emanated, then many of you know, you can just visualize that, you're offering not just one, but think that the offerings that you've actually laid out then come to pervade the realm of space and generate a very vast mind, that you're offering everything beautiful and pleasing and precious in the whole universe. Then third, the confession. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. So this then becomes the means by which we can purify previously accumulated negative action. Yeah. I think in other contexts, you might have heard of the 4 opponent powers, right? So even when we do it in one kind of line here, we can incorporate the 4 opponent powers. So we've already taken a refuge, which is one of them, right? And then to think of the negative actions that we've accumulated and thinking especially about their drawbacks, the downfalls. So either that they will lead us to take rebirth in a lower realm, or more important for us aspiring Mahayana practitioners is the fact that these negative imprints in our mental continua is what leads to us not achieving enlightenment. So these are the sort of obstacles along the path. Many of you know the story, which I think I've mentioned a few times. Lama Zopa Rinpoche is also very fond of telling this about how when Lama Tsongkhapa himself was, training and practicing very hard, at one point, he asked Manjushri, who he could have direct vision, a direct conversation with. And he asked Manjushri, well, then what kind of advice did Manjushri have that he could get the correct view of emptiness? And Manjushri told him to first make supplication to your guru inseparable from your meditation deity, right? So that's what we're doing here, right? With the visualization of the guru and the Buddha being inseparable. And then Manjushri said to make effort in purification and accumulation of merit. And then based on that advice, Lama Tsongkhapa, he then went to Rilka, the retreat place in Tibet, and that's where he performed the 3.5 million prostrations, 1.8 mandala offerings, and so forth, right? And then last, to rely on the authentic treatises on emptiness, particularly those by the 2 great trailblazers, right? Which we talked about before, Arya Asanga and especially Arya Nagarjuna. So here then, we thinking about how these negative karmas then prevent us from gaining the realization of emptiness. The realization of emptiness being the one thing that can sever the very root of samsara, right? Then we generate a feeling of regret. Then we can also think, well, we're not going to do these negative actions again, even when we do this confession, right? So to the best of my ability, I'm not going to, engage in such negative action in the future. And it's good in our daily practice if there's one, specific thing that we're working on. So maybe, I don't know, yesterday we lost our cool and we, kind of criticized someone who criticized us, or maybe we even criticized them even if they didn't criticize us. And so then we can think, okay, and then today I'm going to, be more patient and especially not criticize others. Okay, that can be very good. And then to combine it with a whatever kind of rudimentary understanding of emptiness we have, we can think that these negative actions, they don't exist, independently, truly, inherently. They exist as a dependent arising, right? So also, whatever negative consequences or experiences I would face as a result of these negative karmas are also a dependent arising. The suffering, the future suffering, is dependent on the previous negative actions. Okay, therefore, even the future suffering doesn't exist independently. Okay, and then that's actually why these negative actions can be purified. So then, recalling the kind of ultimate nature of even our negative karma, right? Then that becomes the most powerful antidote to purifying them. As many of you know from other contexts, in the traditional text, it talks about 6 ways, 6 antidotes that one can use to purify negative karma. And the one, interest in emptiness is, very, very powerful. Okay, so then rejoicing in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. So then this is to, think of the positive actions, the virtue of ordinary beings, means beings who have not realized emptiness. Arya beings are beings that have realized emptiness. So within all the sentient beings, all of them are included in one of these 2 categories. Because if you have a mind, you either have a mind that realizes emptiness or you don't, right? Directly. And so basically, that's then rejoicing in the virtues of all living beings. And yeah, this is the specific antidote to jealousy, right? So normally when we might see, someone who's enjoying success, or I don't know, something we want, and then our normal tendency is to be jealous of them, but instead to think, oh wow, my bodhicitta motivation was actually that all sentient beings, have the highest happiness of enlightenment. So of course, when I see someone else get a promotion, or I don't know, win the game, or win whatever, right? Then of course I want them to have every happiness, from a basic happiness, worldly happiness, all the way up to enlightenment. And then we can also think that, and the root cause why they're experiencing this success or happiness now is because they've accumulated virtue in the past. And so to think, wow, that's so wonderful that they had accumulated the cause for experiencing this success now, and then aspire that, okay, may I accumulate such virtuous causes, and may they continue to accumulate virtue and not be satisfied with this, small success that they're having now, right? Okay. Then the next limb of requesting that the Guru Buddha remain until the end of samsara. So this is a specific antidote to negative actions we've accumulated in relation to our Guru. So not obeying the advice and so forth, right? And here, then it is said, it's very good to imagine that you're visualizing a double-crossed Vajra throne, right? So I think here you can see, oh, you can't quite see, but behind me, there's this throne. I think on the side you can see the Vajra. Anyway, you've seen it in other contexts. There's the snow lions holding up the throne, and then the crossed Vajras like this is a symbol of stability. So we visualize that we're offering not just one, but many of these thrones to our Guru, requesting him or her to remain until the end of samsara, and then to think the Guru very happily says, yes, 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 okay. Since you asked so nicely, I'm going to stay until the end of samsara. Okay? And then next limb, we request that they turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings, right? So turning the wheel of Dharma, right, as you know, then that is a kind of yeah, way of saying, teaching the Dharma, right? So, we say the Buddha's first teaching is, when he turned the wheel of Dharma. That means just, giving a teaching. It's a bit poetic. So basically, we're now asking, the Guru to teach, right? And here that purifies the negativities in relation to the Dharma. So, for example, disrespecting Dharma texts, or as we saw in the four benefits of the Lam Rim, right? The benefit of the Lam Rim enabling us to, stopping us from accumulating the great misdeed of abandoning the holy Dharma. So, as you know, that would be to say, oh, this Dharma, I don't need to practice this. This Dharma is meant, for low people, or something like this. So yeah, requesting to turn the wheel of Dharma purifies that. And then last, I dedicate my own and others' virtues to great enlightenment. So yeah, this then makes sure that is the antidote for having a lower aspiration, right? So rather than thinking, I dedicate this virtue so I can, I don't know, be rich and famous and the cover of a magazine, whatever you guys might want to do, to instead think all these virtues, may they go for the great enlightenment. Okay, so that's the 7 in prayer. And then we do the short mandala offering. So this again is a very, very powerful practice. And you should know, well, yeah, this is what Lama Tsongkhapa himself did, 1.8 million mandala offerings to accumulate a large stock of merit in a short amount of time. And then, yeah, so the mandala is the representation of everything beautiful in the universe. This particular verse, so some of you, do you know where this verse came from? No. Wow. Okay, so do you know the story of always crying Bodhisattva? Taktumu? Okay. Wow. Okay. We're gonna have to go into that later, but anyway, there's this Bodhisattva who's held up as a kind of exemplar of Guru devotion. Anyway, I do want to talk about his biography a bit more, but anyway, he had this vision of all these Buddhas, and then he wanted to find his Guru. Long story short, he eventually finds his Guru, but the very day he meets his Guru, then the Guru says, okay, nice to meet you. I'm going into retreat for 6 years. Okay, bye. And so then while his Guru, Dharmodgata, or Chipak, was in retreat, then always crying Bodhisattva, Taktumu in Tibetan, then would clean the surrounding area and would then accumulate the mandala. He would offer these mandalas to his Guru using this verse. Okay. So anyway, this ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. So here, Mount Meru and the 4 continents, this is a kind of, the ancient depiction of the universe in the kind of Indic Vedic tradition. So yeah, basically it's the whole universe, right? Sun and moon, and then we imagine as a Buddha land, means a pure land of the Buddha, and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. So here you can take this one of 2 ways. You can think on a more temporary level, right? You're offering a Buddha field, and then you think that may these beings, transmigratory beings within samsara, may they, if they're not enlightened in this life, may they take rebirth in such a pure land. Okay, yeah. But more generally speaking, every Buddha of the past, all the Buddhas of the present, and all the Buddhas of the future, when one attains enlightenment, one also establishes one's own pure land, right? So you can think more generally to say, may all transmigratory beings enjoy this pure land. You can think that may all sentient beings establish their own pure land by quickly becoming Buddha. Sangeshin de mikde buai jokunana dedar chabarsho. Anyway, idam guru rana mandala kamnirataya mi, like that. And so here, we're talking about the actually arranged and mentally performed offerings. It's also good to think that you're not just offering one mandala, but the whole universe filled with mandalas. Okay, so a universe of universes. All right. So then, after offering the mandala, okay, now we're going to make the requests, right? And here, the foundation of all the qualities is like a requesting prayer, right? You see at the end of the stanza, please bless me to rely upon the guru with great respect, or, please bless me to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. The different stages in the Lamrim. I don't want to say blah, blah, blah about the realizations of Lamrim, but, every stanza has its own kind of request at the end, right? So now at this point, we recite the foundational qualities and focus on one of the Lamrim meditations per session, using the Lamrim outlines as a guide. So now let's go back to, foundation. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Zoom in a little bit. Oh, no more zoom. You can see that all right, right? Okay. So now the guru is very pleased, right? We've offered the mandala, and now we're going to recite the foundation of all good qualities. So a scanning meditation, then you go through this text or another kind of Lamrim prayer, and then for each of the stanzas, I mentioned this before, even one small phrase has a lot of meaning that you can then unpack. Okay, and you just kind of do that, and scanning. It's like skimming a text. You just kind of remember in order what those different topics are. Okay, so we haven't gone through the section on the guru yet. So anyway, that'll come later. But what we have done is, everything except that, right? So anyway, you would recite, right, the foundation of all good qualities. And by the way, how's the memorization coming? Done? Great. So this is what you can do. Then you can also use this as an opportunity to test yourself. Okay? Foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure guru, whatever. Oh yes, good, right? And then, try. And then if you get stuck, then kind of open your eyes and look at it. And it's, I see, correctly following the guru is the root of the path. Okay, anyway, whatever it is, right? Please bless me to rely upon the guru with great respect. Okay, then when I have discovered that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is extremely difficult to find again, and is greatly meaningful, please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind, taking its essence day and night. All right, so now, in the first session, we're going to do the meditation on the precious human rebirth. So at this point in the text, you pause, okay? And then you're going to go do a deep dive into the precious human rebirth meditation. So then this is also another opportunity to kind of test yourself, right? So here in this stanza, what can we unpack, right? Okay, precious freedom of this rebirth. All right, so that is the characteristics of the precious human rebirth. Okay, so what are those? 8 freedoms, 10 endowments. Okay, 8 freedoms, what are those? They're the 4 non-human states and the 4 human states. Okay, the endowments, what are those? 5 relating to myself and 5 relating to others, right? And then go through those kind of individually, right? So one day, right, or one session, you can do that. Now, I've structured this also that you can do this as a daily practice. And if you're doing this as a daily practice, it even says in some of the Lamrim meditation manuals that you would even spend one session on one of the freedoms, right? So freedom from rebirth as a hell being, and just use that in one session, right? Right. And so what you would do in this context, right? If you were doing just one, you think of all the suffering that would, exist, that you would experience if you were born as a hell being. Oh my gosh, right? So then think of all those depictions, being boiled in molten copper, being, prodded by all those spears, being crushed by, mountains, being, all these tremendous sufferings, being trapped in a burning house and being unable to escape. Oh man. Right? You should get a real sense of revulsion. And then think, oh, how could I even, think of practicing Dharma if I was in such a condition? Okay. So really feel, right? Use analysis. You think, you conjure up a feeling, right? When that feeling comes, then you hold your mind on that feeling and you don't need the analysis anymore, right? Okay. Now you can do that, hold your mind on that feeling. Then maybe you hear the cow moo and you get distracted, or you start thinking about something else. Yeah, okay. Back to the meditation topic. You can do that again, conjure up that feeling a few times, and then kind of go on. So the next one, you've identified, okay, how difficult it would be to practice in one of those states. Then think, oh, but you know what? I'm not in that state. I'm not born as a hell being. I'm not in a cauldron of molten copper. Wow, right? Then just feel that preciousness of the freedom that this opportunity as a human allows you, having not been born in that state where you couldn't practice Dharma. Wow. Oh, so nice. So amazing. Okay, and then just hold your mind in that, right? Okay. So then do that a few times. And then kind of as a conclusion, think, all right, well now, since I have this freedom, I'm going to make the best use of it. Make a commitment, right? And then go on with the rest of the meditation. You understand? All right. So that's, unpacking the precious freedom of this rebirth. So then we have found only once is extremely difficult to find again. So what does that show? So then you think, okay, in the Lamrim outlines, what do we have of precious human rebirth? Okay, identifying the characteristics of a precious human rebirth. Okay, it's rarity. Oh yes, it's rarity. Okay, found only once. Extremely difficult to find again. Oh yeah, it's rare. So why then is it rare? Then there's 3 sub outlines of that, right? Rarity because of the causes, right? Rarity in the liberation of the palm of your hand. The second one they give is the rarity by means of analogy, right? So the turtle putting his neck through the golden yolk floating on the ocean. And then last, the difficulty by nature, or sometimes you'll see it referred to as difficulty, reflecting on the numbers, right? So just considering, those three kinds of outlines, right? And again, in one session, you could do just one, right? So difficult, the human rebirth, precious human rebirth is difficult because the causes are difficult. Okay, so what are the causes of getting such a perfect human rebirth? Pure morality, and pure prayers, and practicing of the other, 6 perfections. Wow, and to think, oh, how difficult it is to have all those. So because the causes are difficult, then the effects are also difficult and rare. Okay, great. So you can do that in one session. Then next session you can do the analogy, and then another session you can do with the numbers, or the by nature, and then continue on with the rest of the session. Okay, then your next session, greatly meaningful. What is that? Preciousness of the precious human rebirth. So then, how is that described in the Lamrim? So there's 3 outlines there too. Okay, so this is really nice. You have your own kind of self-testing mechanism, right? Yeah, really nice. And then you can dive into the further reflections, right? So those 3 under greatly meaningful is what? Meaningful in terms of temporary aims, which would be a good rebirth, right? Including a rebirth in the Pure Land. And then for ultimate aims, the ultimate aim of liberation and enlightenment. Yes, we can achieve that with our precious human rebirth. And then the third is, meaningful in every moment, right? So even a few moments of meditating on bodhicitta, meditating on emptiness, offering a mandala, even going around the stupa, right? We can, in a few seconds, collect so much merit. So thinking about that, right? So then, again, doing the analytic meditation, and then please bless me to unceasingly generate the mind, taking its essence day and night. Okay, and as you know, right, from the other outlines, right, we saw the root outline was like, convincing you to take the essence of the precious human rebirth, and then how to take the essence, right? Something like that in the Lamrim outlines, right? So the first outline, convincing you to take the essence of this precious human rebirth, right? That's the teachings on precious human rebirth. And then the next outline, those have 3. Those 3 are the 3 scopes. So taking the essence is then to practice according to any of the 3 scopes. Why is that taking the essence? Because normally what we do with the 8 worldly concerns, just thinking about the happiness of this life, which, as we know, is going to end soon. And all of the kind of happiness or fame, possessions that we accumulate in this life are not going with us to our next life, okay? So taking the essence of this life means to make preparations at least for a future life, which is, the practices of the shared with the small scope. Then, of course, even better is to get liberation from samsara or complete enlightenment. But at the very least, we should take the essence by getting a good rebirth in our next life. Okay? All right. So then next stanza, this body and life are changing like a water bubble. Remember how quickly they perish and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So here now, what do we have? So there's 2 Lamrim outlines, or sorry, 2 Lamrim topics actually here, right? There is the impermanence and death from the first 2 verses of lines of the stanza, and then karma, in the second two lines of the stanza. So actually, your next module is going to be about impermanence and death, just in time for Christmas. So then you can then now pause and do the meditation here. And knowing that you were going to have a whole module on this, I didn't go into it too much in depth, but we have the 9-point death meditation. And so, the death is certain, the time of death is uncertain, and at the time of death, the only thing that will matter is our Dharma practice. So you can just think like that, right? So, yeah. Then after death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So at this point, I think it's just fine to do the meditation on the general characteristics of karma. So, the four, that karma is certain, right? From negative action comes suffering. From positive action come, happy experiences. That karma increases. So the karma potency of our actions increases day by day. And that, we don't experience anything we haven't accumulated the cause for. And once a karma is created, it is never lost. So you can just kind of think about that. Yeah. Again, coming to the point where you get that aha moment, that small realization, and then holding your mind in there. Okay. So now, when you get that kind of feeling that, oh yes, this is how karma works. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. So now what do we do? Then, next stanza. When I have found definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be conscientious in abandoning even the slightest collection of shortcomings and in accomplishing all virtuous deeds. So here then, we take the determination to abandon even the smallest shortcoming and accomplish all virtuous deeds. So this is the kind of summary mindset of a small scope practitioner. So then just hold your mind in this kind of conviction as long as you can. And then go on to the next session, the next stanza, okay? So next, we're now on to the middle scope. So when I recognize the shortcomings of samsara perfections, there's no satisfaction in enjoying them. They are the door to all suffering. They cannot be trusted. Please bless me to generate a strong wish for the bliss of liberation. All right. So now, recognize the shortcomings of samsara perfections. All right. So now here, after the M dash, I just found that, M dash. That's what that's called. After the M dash, they just have three, right? There's no satisfaction. They are the door to all suffering. They cannot be trusted. Okay. But we know from our, we covered in this section, the 6 faults of samsara, right? And then, in other contexts, you have the 8 faults of samsara and the 3 types of suffering, right? So maybe for us, we can use the meditation on the 6 faults or drawbacks of samsara, okay? And again, going through each of them one by one. Now, it's interesting here. So Lama Tsongkhapa, there is a reason why he chose these, and it said that among the various faults of samsara, the 2 most important ones that will help us gain this mind of renunciation most quickly are what? You can guess, right? The first thing is uncertainty and no satisfaction, right? So cannot be trusted, that is actually showing the uncertainty, right? The uncertainty. And then, no satisfaction means, however much we experience, we never get enough. We always want more. Okay. Now, this next little phrase, they are the door to all suffering. Okay. So I wonder, see, this isn't in the explicit list of the faults, right? But this concept was talked about in the need to generate the mind of renunciation. Remember, we talked about that stanza from the 3 principles of the path, right? That, I don't have this memorized, but, as long as you haven't generated the mind, wishing for liberation, there is no way to quell the attachment-seeking pleasurable effects within samsara. Also, craving for cyclic existence thoroughly binds embodied beings. Therefore, at the beginning, seek the mind of renunciation. Right? Something like this. Okay. So now, the door to all suffering, right? We talked about this, right? The bodhicitta is the door to the Mahayana, right? So here, samsaric pleasures, they're the door to all suffering. Why? Right? Because as long as we have this wish to experience the good things within samsara, then we don't have the mind of renunciation. We don't have the mind of renunciation means we're not going to get liberated. We're not liberated means we're going to continually cycle in cyclic existence. When we're continually cycling in cyclic existence, then all these other sufferings, the 8 types of suffering, 6 types of suffering, 3 types of suffering, we experience again and again and again. You understand? So that's the main thing, right? That's the overarching, point here. What is the main shortcoming of samsaric perfection? Well, it's not the samsaric perfection themselves, but because we're attached to experiencing them, then we don't have the mind of renunciation. Because we don't have the mind of renunciation, we're not going to get liberated. So then, thinking in that way, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Okay? Now, one thing that I didn't mention before, but it is mentioned in the kind of traditional commentaries. You can think, right? Since this is a requesting prayer, you request, okay, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. You can think that from the Guru's heart, then light rays come out and purify you, right? So you say, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. And again, think that your Guru says, okay, since you asked so nicely, and then from his heart or her heart comes the purifying light rays. And these purifying light rays then purify all the obstacles for you generating this strong wish for the bliss of liberation, the mind of renunciation. Okay? So you can visualize the purifying white light, right? Then if you want to elaborate even more, you can think then after you're purified with white light, then kind of yellow golden light comes and then grants you that realization. Right? And this is kind of nice, right? You then just rest in that kind of awareness. Okay, all my obstacles to generating the mind of renunciation are eliminated, and I've received that mind of renunciation. And you can rest in that. Okay, good. Then you go on to the rest of this. foundation of all good qualities. All right. Then in another session, you do just like what we've done, and then when you're ready, you can go on to this next stanza. Through my being led by this pure thought. What is the pure thought? The mind of renunciation, wishing for the bliss of liberation. Then, with great remembrance, alertness, and conscientiousness, please bless me to make keeping the individual liberation vows the root of the teachings my essential practice. So, yeah, individual liberation vows. Then we have the lay vows. Then we also have the vows of monastics. So I think some of you might have taken the individual liberation vows, and then for the lay vows, there are 5. And basically, this is the kind of the root of the teachings, right? So just like all the trunk, the branches, the fruits that will eventually come, it all depends on the root of the tree, right? So similarly, when we say keeping the individual liberation vows, means keeping pure morality. So then that is the root of the teachings, because essentially here, since we're still in the medium scope, right? We know that the main practice of a full-fledged medium scope practitioner would be to practice the 3 higher trainings in order to achieve liberation from samsara, right? So those are morality, the higher training in morality, the higher training in concentration, and the higher training in wisdom. Okay, so the root of the teachings is this, keeping pure morality, because it forms the basis of gaining, concentration and later wisdom, right? But on another level, then we also know that, remember, to get a precious human rebirth, it gives us the best possible conditions to make utmost progress along the path, whether to liberation or to enlightenment, right? And we reflected about how rare it is to achieve this precious human rebirth, because the causes are also very difficult. And so in general, to have a good rebirth, we need pure morality. So since we're probably going to need more than one lifetime to fully traverse the path to enlightenment, then we have to also make sure that in our next life, we get a good human rebirth again. Okay? And then how do we then keep our morality pure, right? Remembrance, alertness, conscientiousness, okay? So here, then remembrance, we can think, is to remember, okay, I have these vows, or, I'm trying to live a moral life. I'm trying not to, steal, kill, lie, these things, right? So remembering. Then alert. So here, the Tibetan, shishin, alertness, they translate it as, but rather, in other contexts, they talk about this as introspection. So this means, looking in the mind and seeing when there are delusions, afflictions that come up. So here we think, okay, oh, wait a minute, I'm a bit irritated. I kind of want to say something bad to this person to really teach him a lesson. Okay, to know what's going on in your mind. And then, conscientious, bakya, interesting. Here, that would just mean, right, in this context, to then say, all right, well, although I have this mind that wants to, badmouth this other person, then, well, I'm going to be conscientious. Means to think, okay, this is improper for me as an aspiring, practitioner to, talk ill of others, to criticize others, and therefore I'm not going to do this. Okay, so those are the three ways let's talk about here. All right. So next, we're on to the great scope. Just fall into the sea of samsara, solve all mother transmigratory beings. By my saying this, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing transmigratory beings. Okay, so here again, first, really good. Just unpack the meaning here. So again, sea of samsara. So what is samsara, and why is it likened to being a sea? Okay, all right. So have all mother transmigratory beings. All right, transmigratory being. What does that mean again? So here, you guys know, right? Transmigratory beings. There's two etymologies of it, right? One, transmigratory means, within samsara, right? Migrating, right? So we already remember samsara is the cycle of uncontrolled rebirth due to our karma and afflictions. So these, transmigratory beings, they cycle through all the various 6 types of, stages or types of rebirth within samsara, not through any choice, but because they're under the, control of karma and delusions, right? Then the other way transmigratory beings is explained, it's every step. Okay, there's this analogy like the sheep that are about to be slaughtered. Okay, they're in line, and every step they take, they're getting closer to being slaughtered, right? So actually, the word in Tibetan is drola. Dro means to go, right? So every second, these beings, because they're in samsara, means uncontrolled rebirth, uncontrolled death, right? Now, every moment that goes by, we're getting closer and closer to death. So that's also why they're called transmigratory beings. Okay? So by my seeing this, please bless me to train in supreme bodhicitta, which bears the responsibility of freeing transmigratory beings. So now at this point in the practice, you would then pause and do the meditation on bodhicitta. We talked about 2 7-point cause and effect instructions and equalizing and exchanging self for others. So right now in the videos, I just did a little bit guided meditation on the 7-point cause and effect and instructions. But you can also do the equalizing and exchanging self for others if you wish. So actually the first 2 lines of the stanza, it points more towards that, equalizing, exchanging self for others, right? We think about our own samsaric suffering and think, oh, all sentient beings are just like that, right? So in that sense, that's, equalizing. All right. Yeah, I think that's good. Then, even if I develop only bodhicitta without familiarizing myself with the 3 types of morality, I cannot achieve enlightenment. By my saying this well, please bless me to keep the vow of the sons of victorious ones with fervent effort. Okay, so now, 3 types of morality. We remember that? Yes. Okay. So, right, we have the morality of abstaining from non-virtue, the morality of benefiting sentient beings, and the morality of, making effort in the accumulations of merit and transcendental wisdom, right? So what does this show? Actually, this also shows the difference between the aspirational bodhicitta and the engaging bodhicitta. Aspirational bodhicitta is what's referred to here, even if I develop only bodhicitta, means the aspiration to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So however great that mind is, right, it's still just a wish. May I achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So as some of you know, these two types of bodhicitta, the aspirational and the engaging bodhicitta, then Shantideva likens this, right, to merely wishing to go and actually going, right? So yeah, we might want to go somewhere, I don't know, go to the beach, right? But if we just stay in our rooms and say, oh, I wish I want to go to the beach, but actually never leave our room, we won't get to the beach, right? Of course, if we never even want to go to the beach, we don't just get, picked up by the wind and somehow planted there either, right? So both are needed. So we need this mind wishing to achieve enlightenment, but then we actually need to engage in the practices that lead to enlightenment. So these three types of morality are there, right? And actually, those three types of morality, then they encompass, accumulating the various collections. So then when we see, please bless me to keep the vow of the sons of the victorious ones with fervent effort, this means the Bodhisattva vows. And those of you who have, gotten teachings on these before, then you'll know, right? We have the 18 root vows and the 46 secondary vows. And the 46 secondary vows, actually, they're separated, or they're kind of categorized into the 6 perfections, right? And as you know, the 6 perfections is the main practices by which one achieves enlightenment. Okay, so then to say, please bless me to keep the vow of the victorious ones with fervent effort, actually means to, train in the 6 perfections. Okay. By having pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyze the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. So here, remember in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, how the outlines went. It said, to training in general in the deeds of the children of the conquerors, and then in particular to train in the last 2 perfections. Okay, right? Yes. So this is actually following that, right? So this stanza is talking about the training in the last 2 perfections, the perfection of meditative concentration and the perfection of wisdom, right? So the first 2 lines talks about, concentration. The first line, concentration, and then analyze the meaning of reality, that talks about the perfection of wisdom. Wisdom comes through the analysis. And here, at this point, we will pause and do the meditation on emptiness. So we talked about the 4 essentials, right? Or the 4 key points. Identifying the object of negation, determining the pervasion, right? And then determining that, the self and the aggregates, or the body and mind, are not inherently one with aggregates, or they're not inherently same, nor are they inherently different. So in that way, at this point in the practice, you'll do the actual meditation using this 4 essentials, or the 4 key points. And so, you should know that this, I think we mentioned before, but the identifying the object of negation is the most difficult one. And, sometimes, the meditation masters of the past, they would spend even years trying to do that. So here, for us, maybe, we're not going to get the realization, but we can at least, start and learn how that works. So, yeah. And then that's it, actually, because these ones, talks about the Vajrayana, and we are not quite there yet, right? So remember, right, when I have become a suitable vessel by training in the common path, that means the things that we've talked about, the three principles of the path, renunciation, bodhicitta, emptiness. When one has, trained in those three minds, then one is suitable to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate beings, the supreme of all vehicles, the Vajrayana. Then it talks about, I'll just go through this for now. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping my vows and samadhi purely. When I've gained effortless conviction in this, please bless me to protect them, even at the cost of my life. Then, there are four categories of the Vajrayana, and the higher two, they, in order to get initiation, then one needs to take the set of tantric vows. So that's what this is talking about. Then after taking those vows, to then guard them. Then when I've realized exactly the vital points of the two stages, how much do I talk about here? So there's two stages, generation stage and completion stage, right? We're not going to get into that right now, but that is the essence of the tantric sets. And then enjoying the yoga of 4 sessions with effort without being distracted by non-meditation objects. Please bless me to accomplish these according to the teachings of the holy beings. Thus, may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path and the spiritual practitioners who correctly accomplish it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles. Outer obstacles. Outer obstacles like sickness, war breaks out in the country, so forth, right? Or being too busy with work or something, that can also cause an obstacle for practicing. Then inner obstacles, then these are afflictions. So laziness, all the way up to having a preponderance of attachment to worldly pursuits. Then these can also cause obstacles to our practice. Then last, in all my lives, I'm separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Ajadara. Okay, so there's a bit of a crash course there, but you understand what we mean, right? Let's go back to the other one. Right. So here, at this point, recite the foundation of all good qualities and focus on one Lamrim meditations per session using the Lamrim outlines as a guide. Okay. So you understand, in every session, you recite the whole foundation of all good qualities. Then per session, you pause after one of the stanzas, right? So you have a plan and you say, okay, today, this session, I'm going to meditate on precious human rebirth and identifying the 18 qualities of the precious human rebirth. Or you can even say, and of those 18 qualities, I'm just going to meditate on the 4 non-human states. Okay? Do that. Then you continue on with the rest of the foundational qualities. Okay? So at that point, you can pause, right? And do maybe 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however much you want to do on that one topic. Okay? And then go through the rest. Then, gradually in this way, you go through the various topics. Okay? So in a 3-day Lamrim retreat, then you could do it, in an easy way to think, all right, well, one day I'm going to do all the topics up through renunciation. One day I'm going to do bodhicitta. One day I'm going to do meditation on emptiness. Okay? So like that. Then at the end, right, we have this this dedication. Let me go back to that. In all my lives, I'm separated from perfect gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, so this is a kind of dedication, right? And so remember, since we're visualizing our guru in the space in front, and we're making these requests, then we can think that the guru accepts our request, that we'll never be separated, and life after life, our guru will guide us, lead us. And then to think, completing the qualities of the grounds and paths. Grounds and paths, that means the Arya Bodhisattva grounds and paths, right? So there are 10 of those, and one needs to complete all of those before one attains the state of Vajradhara. Vajradhara being the state of enlightenment, right? And then you can think, our guru accepts to always guide us life after life, and then to grant us these realizations of the grounds and the paths. Okay. So how's that? Clear? Huh? Más o menos. Yeah. So I think that's good for now. When you go into the module, you're going to get this more explanation. But for now, I think you're capable of doing everything I've described this for. Right? Yeah? Okay. Everything? I've described how to realize emptiness. You think you're capable of realizing emptiness? No. Of course. Step by step, step by step. All right. And then you end the session. Okay. So now let's get to brass tacks. What does that even mean? Anyway, let's be really clear then how you would actually then do a 3-day meditation session. So normally, 3-day meditation retreat. Normally, when they talk about retreat, you saw it in the foundation of all qualities, right? The never giving up the 4 sessions. So normally they talk about 4 sessions in a day. Okay. And so you could do 4 sessions. And then again, how does that work for you? What is your schedule like? Now, you could even do, while you're going to work in the middle of the day, you could still do 4 sessions, right? You wake up at 5, right? You do you do your session from 5:05. You do half an hour, then make yourself a nice coffee or tea, right? 15 minutes later, then whatever, 6 o'clock, you do your second session, 6 to 6:30. Okay. Then 6:30, you get ready for work. You're out the door by 7:15? Come on, so much time, right? Do any of you have to get to the office before 9 anyway? No, right? Okay. Even if you have to get in at 8, there's plenty of time. Okay. Then you come back home. Same thing. Have your dinner if you take dinner. And then instead of turning on the TV or something, 8 o'clock, you have your session 3. 8 to 8:30, you do your session. You relax. Then 9 to 9:30, you do your next session. Then, come on, you're in bed by 10. Right? No problem. Really? Okay. So that's if you're doing with a full 8-hour workday in the middle. So now if you're saying, Namjong, come on, I have weekends off. Then of course you can do even more than that. I'm explaining this to say, even if you have 8 hours of work in the day, you can still do 4 sessions of meditation. Then, of course, if you're not working in the middle of the day, then you can do 4 sessions, of course. And then if you do that, then, you can make your sessions longer. And yeah, do it even in a more relaxed way. You don't have to limit yourself to half an hour a session. So like that. Then, as we mentioned, if you can do it in 3 consecutive days, that's fine. If you can't, then this weekend you do the session on renunciation. Then next weekend you do bodhicitta. Next weekend you do emptiness. And then as a continuing daily practice, you can then do these very slowly, very nice, and kind of slowly go through the outlines. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. And now we have a nice chunk of time for questions. Are there any questions? Eve.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know how to ask this question, so I'm issuing a disclaimer. It might not come out right, but of all the readings we did in this course, His Holiness's Illuminating the Path, the Lamrim book that we read, that one really, I just understood it so much more clearly than anything else. And he's using Atisha's text, not Tsongkhapa's. We're following Tsongkhapa's, I assume, because he's the founder of the Gela tradition, and that's what this is about. I'm really not sure. So my question is, what's the difference between following Atisha's writings themselves versus Tsongkhapa's? Are they pretty much interchangeable? If I understand one better because of His Holiness's book, is that just perfectly good exchange? Or should I know something more about the difference between Tsongkhapa and Atisha's writings?
Yeah, well, actually, so His Holiness book, it gives a dual commentary on Atisha's Lamp for the Path of Enlightenment, as well as Tsongkhapa's text, The Lines of Experience, or the Songs of Experience. Okay, so we talked about the Lamrim Chenmo, the great stages of the path to enlightenment. Then we also talked about the medium stages of the path to enlightenment. So that text, the Songs of Experience, is also known as the short Lamrim Dudun. Okay, so in general, Lamrim is a genre, right? It's not one text, but it's a style of text that lays out the stages of the path to enlightenment. Okay, and yeah, in general, when you look in the Lamrim Chenmo, it says that the root text is the Atisha's text, the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment. In this module, when I introduced those 3 practitioners, the 3 scopes, I used the root verses from Atisha, right? You remember that, right? What when he defines what a small scope practitioner, a medium scope practitioner, a great scope practitioner is, those definitions come from Atisha. But when you look in Atisha's text a bit more, there is not so much in the actual stages, right? He defines those 3 beings, but then a lot of time he spends on these different thoughts about taking the bodhisattva vow and these other kind of questions that came up. So I wonder if when you say, oh, I understood this so much more, that actually it's because of the verses from the Songs of Experience. Anyway, that's just my hypothesis. But even if that's the case, okay, let's just interchange and just say let's just say, for example, someone else is like, oh my gosh, the liberation in the palm of your hand, I find it so confusing. But when I read Lamrim Chenmo, oh, I love that one. I find that so much more easier to understand. I like how Lama Tsongkhapa, he gives all these quotations from the Indian source texts. Okay. Then I'll say, okay, great, more power to you. And so, you know, different people, they might feel, yeah, they get more out of reading one type of text or another. Okay. I've mentioned a few times that, you know, sometimes the translation of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, I have a few qualms with. Okay. So some of you, yeah, you might gravitate towards one or the other. So for me, in my way of thinking, I'm focused on the results, right? And so those Lamrim outlines, they're basically the same, give or take, across all the Lamrim texts, right? Because it's a genre. And so when we then say precious human rebirth, okay, that's the topic I want you to understand well, okay? And so then those main broad outlines about identifying the qualities of the precious human rebirth, contemplating its rarity, contemplating its preciousness, so forth, okay? I want you to get realization about that. Whether you get realization from reading Lamrim Chenmo, reading Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, reading, you know, the Essential Nectar, you know, which is a more versified, you know, text that, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche also recommends a lot. Whatever it is, great. For some of you, if you're serious, then it would also be good. You know, there's 18 Lamrim texts, you know, famously. It'd be good not to just say, okay, what's my required reading for this module? Okay, Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Okay, page 1 to 104. I've done that. Check. Right? I'm done. Don't stop. Right? Then say, okay, what else? What else do I have? Right? What else? What other kinds of materials are out there? And so, you know, some of you might have gone on Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive, right? And you see that there's a whole, you know, for each of the Lamrim topics, there's more there, right? So then, you know, some of you might say, okay, you know, yeah, the teachings on precious human rebirth, I think I got those pretty okay. But then, you know, the stuff about samsara and the different types of sufferings within samsara, you know, I'm a bit shaky on that. And so what am I going to do? Okay, let me look on this other source. Oh, yes. And then I find something that gives more explanation. And now you get better understanding. That's great. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, if I were to start every day, you know, I'm looking at a daily practice mostly, with the next section of one of the Lamrim outlines. I have 2 of them on my computer, and they both they're a little different, but I can follow them really well. And then go back to either Atisha's or Tsongkhapa's texts and read a little more, and then maybe, you know, meditate a little. Is that a nice approach, or am I taking too much liberty with the study?
No. In general, that's good as a daily practice, right? You want to go through the different Lamrim topics, right? And normally, you know, yeah, there's some general advice about how to do this. Lama Zopa gives, where you would do, for example, 3 months on the small scope, 3 months on the middle scope, 3 months on bodhicitta, 3 months on emptiness. That's kind of like as a baseline, okay? And then what does that mean? If I do 3 months on the small scope, what would that be? Okay, 1 month on precious human rebirth, 1 month on impermanence and death, 1 month on suffering of lower realms, karma, refuge, just as a kind of, you know, baseline, right? And then you can go through. And then, okay, if I have 1 month on precious human rebirth, what does that mean? 10 days on the 18 qualities, right? And then what, 1 week on its rarity, maybe a few days on the analogy, right? And then 1 week on the it's meaningfulness, something like that. And you just generally go through, right? You can set it up that way. Then in the meantime, some of those things, the presentation won't be that different, right? Precious Human Rebirth, you read, okay, it's fine. Now, when you start getting into the emptiness, especially, you're not going to, want to be satisfied with just one text. And especially these short Lamrim prayers, it's not going to give you enough. So then you're going to want to, get into things, but that's coming later. But for now, sorry, I'm being so verbose. For now, that's a good approach. Yes, thank you. All right, anything else?
I have a question around emptiness. So as I've been reading it and looking through it, I keep getting stuck into like nihilism. And so rather than answer it in this session, are we going to cover like the persistence of karma or consciousness in another module? Because as I go through emptiness, I kind of go to, okay, then, we don't exist, I don't exist, therefore I get stuck on that. So is there either a reading I should focus on that would do a better explanation of it that you could recommend, or will we cover the karma persistence portion in another module?
So yes, and yes, and yes.
Okay.
So, okay, well, first thing, even before that, right, we always have to emphasize, these two levels of truth, right? Two levels of truth. So the conventional level of truth is that which is sort of known and renowned in the world, right? So in other words, I like to say, we ask here in India, we ask our rickshaw driver, right? Or you guys, maybe you ask your Uber driver, right? Does the table exist? Do I exist? What things exist? And the things that are generally accepted in the world, without having trained in philosophy or without being, philosophically inquisitive, those are the things, renowned in the world. Those are the things that conventionally exist. Now, given that there is this conventionally existent, whatever, cup, then if we don't analyze, if we're satisfied with just, yes, there's a cup in my hand, we get along fine in the world, right? Okay. But then if we aren't satisfied and we say, wait a minute, how does this cup exist? So now this is very important, right? How this cup exists is automatically kind of assuming a basis upon which we're going to be doing our investigation. How does this cup exist? Right? We won't ask that question if there's no cup, right? If there's no cup upon which we're going to analyze, or in other words, if the cup doesn't exist, it doesn't even make sense to ask how it exists, right? So similarly, you see the famous example of a non-existent phenomena, right? The child of a barren woman, right? Child of a barren woman. Once we understand the child of a barren woman doesn't exist, we don't ask, oh, what color is his eyes, right? So there has to be this basis upon which we analyze, okay? And that is the conventionally existent phenomena. Okay, so now really keep that in mind. There is this conventionally existent basis upon which I'm analyzing, okay? So now when we analyze, whatever analysis we do, when we ask how something exists, we're just going to then refute a type of existence, a mode of existence, right? You understand? So when we analyze, does this cup exist? Okay. Let me take a step back, right? If I now am saying, okay, does this cup exist in my, here's my right hand, here's my left hand. Does my cup exist in my right hand? And I analyze, and I say, no, the cup doesn't exist in my right hand. What am I allowed to conclude from that? Well, just, I had a very small area of inquiry. Does the cup exist in my right hand? Right? So when I conclude it doesn't exist in my right hand, then I have to sort of just, how do you say, allow that to be what is kind of valid to conclude from that, which isn't the cup doesn't exist. I had a very narrow field of inquiry, right? Similarly, if I say, does the cup exist on the table? I look at my table. When I analyze on the table and I can't find the cup, I then can conclude the cup isn't on the table. But then I don't conclude that the cup doesn't exist, right? So in this way, you know, we have kind of specific areas of inquiry, and then we have to know that when we inquire in that scope, in that field, when I make a conclusion, then what I can then validly take away from that and what I can't. Okay. So now when we ask, does the self exist one with aggregates? Does it exist different from the aggregates? Okay. What is the conclusion we take from that? Well, then here, since we have this inherently, and we're saying, okay, if the self inherently exists, it has to be inherently one with the aggregates or inherently different from the aggregates. All I can conclude from that is the self doesn't inherently exist. But it's not that the self doesn't exist, full stop. Right? So in that way, see, we've limited our mode of inquiry, right? Like, for example, the cup. When we ask, how does it exist? We use analysis. Then we think of these ways that it could exist. It could exist inherently. It could exist, you know, as a mere dependent arising, mere labeled by the mind. It could exist truly. It could exist as the same substance as the mind perceiving it. All these different, you know, possibilities, modes of existence. Okay. But when we analyze any of those modes of existence, those are just possible ways it could exist. But if we were to ask, hey, does the cup itself exist? We don't. You know, it will ask you, is there a cup in my left hand? You don't say, hey, wait a minute, Namjung, let me meditate on that. No, you just open your eyes. Okay, maybe it's a hologram or whatever, but you use a different kind of analysis to answer that question, right? Yes, this is what we mean. There's the conventional truth. For the conventional truth, whether the cup exists or not, we use a conventional mind, my eye consciousness. Okay. Then, for the ultimate truth, does this cup exist inherently? Then I'll say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to use my eyes anymore. Let me think. Then it's okay, right? So this is why, this is the importance of those two truths, right? We keep them in their own sort of spheres, right? And so whatever analysis we do on the ultimate, it's not going to harm the conventional, right? Even we use all those reasonings that Nagarjuna, Buddha Palita, Chandrakirti talks about, it's not harming the conventional existence of the cup. So yeah, Chandrakirti, you know, he says Jiten tanye malakchik, right? So don't destroy the worldly conventionalities. So anyway, yeah, that's the general kind of point. Is to just keep that in mind. What our analysis is intending to seek, what's the maximum it can do, right? So anyway, yeah, this concept is really important, and it's going to come up again and again. So one, yes, we are going to talk about this. There's going to be a whole section on emptiness, and then that's going to come up. In the meantime, probably, I would say, when you look a little bit at the various texts on emptiness, this is going to come up a lot. If you are a little bit studious, right, and a little bit, I will say, a little bit intelligent, you can go already into the great treatise of the path, the Lamrim Chenmo, and volume 3 is going to talk about all this. Lama Tsongkhapa in that text, he's refuting these different views that came up. And in Tibet, however many years, 600 years ago, there were some that held that, Nagarjuna was a nihilist, right? And so when Lama Tsongkhapa talks about this, he talks about the identifying the object of negation, and then what it means to be conventionally established, right? Conventionally established. And then he talks about these different wrong views about the difference between the Prasangika and the Svatrantika, Madhyamika systems. Anyway, in that is gonna give you a very rich context of this, how Nagarjuna is not actually a nihilist, how conventional truth still operates in the absence of inherent existence. All those big concepts come up. So, yeah. But it's a dense text, okay? It's a dense text. So it's definitely a one that you'll probably need, at least to have someone to bounce some ideas off of and say, wait a minute, I read this, what does this mean? Anyway, in the meantime, if I think of something that's a little bit more user-friendly, I'll let you know. But what I just explained, that's what they're going to tell you. It's all going to come down to that, keeping these two truths in mind, and then saying, okay, the conventional truth, ultimate truth, when I analyze the ultimate, it's not harming the conventional. That's basically what it is. If you have that very solid in mind, you're not going to fall into nihilism. Because you're going to always remember that my ultimate analysis is analysis of the ultimate. It's not analysis of the conventional. Right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I see Anne is like raising her hand. Saying.
I was wondering, why is it in many traditions, like the entryway into emptiness, contemplating emptiness is contemplating impermanence and dependent arising, right? And it's less, it's everything around us, right? And I do appreciate the fine tuning of, of emptiness in this tradition. I understand that that is not the same as contemplating dependent arising, conventional truth. But like it coming into Tibetan Buddhist Gelugpa studies, it's like it seems like everything goes straight into this very fine-tuned emptiness where it is very easy to fall into nihilism, right? So I have wondered why there isn't as much of a, like, starting with impermanence and dependent arising. Like, does the question make sense? I'm not trying to be not appreciative of a lineage, but it's just like
Yeah. Well, okay, it's like this. So first of all, where the main teachings on emptiness is coming, it's already, at the end of Lemrim, right? So all those other things, karma, even bodhicitta, the first 5 perfections, it's all in the realm of conventional truth. Okay. So yeah, it's not that it's just jumping into that, because all the impermanence and death, all those other things, everything up to that is all in the realm of convention. Now, this is something interesting, right? At least interesting to me. So remember we had that quotation from Chandrakirti giving the commentary on Aryadeva's 400 stanzas, right? Where the meaning of the self is the phenomena that doesn't depend on others, right? Is a phenomena that doesn't, depend on others, right? And the non-existence of that is what we mean by selflessness, right? Okay. Now that quotation, you'll find it in, it's there in Lama probably all of Lama Tsongkhapa's writings on emptiness. That is the most kind of highly put up there in terms of quotation of identifying the object of negation. But now we think, okay, what the self is something that doesn't rely on another phenomena. Its lack of existence is what we mean by selflessness. Okay, so now ask yourself, okay, so we see a sprout, right? A sprout arises from a seed, right? So do we realize that the sprout depends on the seed? Yes? And I'm talking to you. Yeah? Yeah, you're in deep meditation, right? So do we realize the sprout depends on the seed? Okay. Huh? Now don't psych yourself out.
Okay.
Even the farmers, they know this, right? You ask them, they're planting seeds in the field. Why are you doing that? I want to get a good crop.
Okay.
Right? They know this. We know this, right? The sprout depends on the seed. Having a good harvest depends on giving it water and fertilizer and all these, right? Okay, so now we know the sprout depends on the seed. Okay, so do we then realize the sprout is empty of not depending on any other phenomena? Do we realize that the sprout is a dependent arising? Do we realize the sprout is empty of inherent existence?
Yes. If we contemplate dependent arising, I don't know if we contemplate dependent arising all the time, what we understand or what we begin to appreciate is this kind of infinite interdependence of all things. It's much muddier and it's much murkier than the emptiness meditations, but through contemplating dependent arising all the time, there is a greater spaciousness to everything. And it does soften and call into question this imposition of a meaning generality of something existing independent of relying on anything else. It's the flip side of emptiness. It is the reality we inhabit, right? Is dependent arising, interconnection, and very expansive notions of anything, of this paper was a tree. It has a sun, it has the earth in it. You burn it, it's ashes, it's still the paper, right? I mean,
Okay, what I was getting at. So what you've said is all true.
okie dokie.
And yes, fine. What I'm saying is, right, when you come down to it, you see, it's strange because we might realize that a sprout depends on a seed, right? But I wouldn't say, then we realize that the sprout is empty of inherent existence. If we realize the sprout is empty of inherent existence, we realize emptiness, right?
Okay.
Right. That is so. Why I'm saying this is, it's weird because that quotation is the one that's like, this shows what the object of the negation is, right? But then it's very easy to say, wait a minute, then why don't I realize emptiness if I realize that the sprout depends on the seed? And I think I realize that, right? I think I do. But yet I don't want to say I realize emptiness, right? So there has to be something a lot more in there that's not just some like, oh yeah. I mean, I don't now want to dismiss or be putting up a paper tiger, but okay, yes, it's true that everything is connected, and there's very beautiful meditations. Like, okay, when I look at my boulder race, I think about all the people that went into it. There's definitely some benefit to the mind in that.
Right.
But when we talk about realizing emptiness in the sense that it's going to become the antidote to cut the root of samsara and bring us to liberation and enlightenment, it's not talking about this kind of thing. There's something a lot more profound about it. And when we get into it, actually, to realize the dependent arising as it's talked about in Gelugpa, you actually need to realize emptiness first. What I mean to say is the subtlemost dependent origination, right? There's the 3 levels of dependent origination, right? The dependence on causes and conditions, depending on its parts, and then depending on the label, base of designation, and the mind applying the base, right? That 3rd level of dependent origination, actually, you need to realize emptiness first. First, you negate that it's inherently existent. And then you say, okay, it's not inherently existent, but it exists. How then does it exist? Oh, it must exist as a dependent arising. You understand? So in that sense, this subtlemost form of dependent origination is not the method by which we realize emptiness. Realizing emptiness is the method by which we realize subtle dependent arising.
Yes. I do. I understand and appreciate it.
So then always the difficulty is, okay, we talked about the pervasion, right? Talking about the pervasion. Now, maybe we realize that the sprout is dependent on its causes. Okay, fine. But the question is, we then have to realize that something that's dependent on its causes is necessarily empty of inherent existence. How do we realize that? Now, then, to realize that if something is dependent on its causes is necessarily inherently existent, not inherently existent, even to realize that, we have to realize what it means to lack inherent existence. That's really hard. Anyway, I'm not sure if I answered your question.
It was very helpful. Thank you very much. I apologize to Mary Ellen if I've given her a heart attack for opening up this later module, this Q&A in module 3. So, but thank you very, very much.
No. Look. These both James and Anne, those questions, that's the good thing. Yeah, we want these questions early, right? So these are, we present the path, right? Presenting, this is the overview. Then it gives us a basis to go deeper. And I think I said this before, but maybe just to Mary Ellen in one of our debriefs. But at this point in our studies, we don't want answers. We want more questions. Okay. So when you guys are going through the material, I really like it. These questions popping up. Oh, what does this mean? I'm having difficulty in this. Then that gives the basis for further inquiry, right? I'm more nervous when it's like, at the end of the last session, are there any questions? And everyone's sitting there like the Buddha statue, right? No, shouldn't be that way. It should be, no, there's more questions, there's more difficulties, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but our time is up. Now, I did just want to say something because I've read some of the questions that you gave in. And, some of you also, you wrote the answers. I'll just say this as a general thing, right? Now, there's different levels of questions. And one kind of question is, just as an example, right? What is Lamrim? Okay. And then some of you, like all the questions are like, what is Lamrim? What is the mind of renunciation? What is the this? What is the that? And then it's like, okay, the answer to that is basically defining terms. And that's good. We need to have the terminology straight. We need to have our internal glossary of all these new terms that are coming up. That's good. But then the next level is starting to then draw kind of connections, analyze, right? And one way of doing this is when we see, and we did this in one of the classes, right? We see things that are kind of related concepts, and then to compare and contrast, right? So one example of this, right? In the bodhicitta meditation, we have, love. We also have compassion, okay? So one thing could be, now, what is the difference between loving kindness and compassion? Okay. Then we have the immeasurable compassion also, right? Some of you know immeasurable compassion. So then what is the difference between immeasurable compassion and the great compassion, which is number 5 in the 7-point cause and effect instructions? What's the difference between that? Then what's the difference between the great compassion, number 5, right? And then number 6, this altruistic, the laksam ningje, right? So that's another level, right? Comparing and contrasting different concepts. That's good to do. And then now, when you're answering these questions, this is something to think about too. When you're answering them, let's say there's a question like, what is Lamrim? You should be able to give, let's say, a 15-second answer, a 2-minute answer, a 5-minute answer, a 15-minute answer, and a a 2-hour, maybe 8 modules of 2 hours, that kind of answer. Seriously, right? Depending. And that's what we're trying to do, right? So and again, to go back to the Lamrim outlines, you know, it has a very nice curricula, they did this, but you can always press expand, right? You have the fork, expand, 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 expand. So similarly with your answers, right? What is Lamrim? Okay, 15-second answer. Lamrim means stages on the path to enlightenment. Okay. Now you tell someone that, then it's, again, let's expand. So what is enlightenment? And what are the stages? Right? So enlightenment is blah, blah, you know, you can keep going, going, going. So for you, you know, now maybe if you're writing an answer on a test, you know, of course you could write what is the you know, what is a Lamrim, and you could give me back like almost encompass 3-volume, right? Great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. That'd be a great answer, right? But you know, short of that, what is the middle ground, right? What are the sort of, and if you don't, even if you don't give it to me, just in your mind say, okay, yeah, I can give a 1-minute answer, I can give a 5-minute answer, I can give a 15-minute answer, I can give a 1-hour answer, right? In your mind, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you,
So maybe we'll leave it at that, and I'll do just dedication here. Oops. Okay, this isn't okay. We can do this. So maybe due to all the merit that we've accumulated in our whole session, the whole module, yeah, due to this merit, may the virtuous friends who reveal the noble path and the spiritual practitioners who correctly accomplish it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely the collections of outer and inner obstacles, and all my lives never separated from perfect gurus may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma, and by completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, so thank you very much for all of your effort. Those of you who haven't given the questions, then you can do that, you know, and then I'm gonna go through and yeah, send them back to you. Okay, so thank you very much. And yeah, we'll see you next time. We'll get the videos out relatively soon, and then you can go and have your meditation sessions on your own time. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you, Venerable John, and Mary Ellen and Nurse.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Yes.
everyone. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay. Bye.